Alright guys, we're doing a solo cast once again today, and I'm already starting off coughing, which is really just fantastic. But, figured, gotta get something at least in today. I've had pretty serious lack of casting in the last several weeks, and we're about to hit Cycle 7 in about a week's time, so at some point it would be good to wrap up Cycle 6 before we start having a crap ton more coverage to do. That's, I don't know, seems like a solid plan. So this is Loser Bracket Round 2, and this is Don't Care taking on Team Mewtwo. You'll notice there's a WOG tag, there's all sorts of tags on the HoN team. Legion side, more or less tagged up together as DoCa. And notable, they did lose Marcus Moy for this cycle, I believe, as well as Time to Die, who was on this team. Solo Volca, I think, was on the team before. I don't really remember. Contact High, I'm pretty sure wasn't. Zephranthe was. Linko 6 was. And I believe Zudonix was. So maybe Solo Volca was an occasional ringer. Yeah, and he's coming back for this. So DoCa losing two, honestly, very good players. And it's not going to be easy to replace their talent. And I wouldn't be surprised to see DoCa slide down a little bit. They had actually been looking pretty solid in the last couple of cycles with Marcus Moy and Time to Die on the roster. And without them, I feel like they're going to have some struggles and may move back towards that mid-tier Gold Division team as opposed to the upper tier of Gold Division and perhaps even threatening Diamond. Not really threatening Diamond, but you could see them in conversation for it. I think at this point, really unlikely that we're going to be seeing them in Diamond in Cycle 8 or 7. And apparently Druntz has heard that a lot. I'll turn D&D on. But first couple of bans from the Legion side are Cthulhuvan and Magnus. Hellborn going to take out Swiftblade and Parasite. So Cthulhuvan actually from the Legion side in the first, but overall ban, not something that you would see very often, but just annoying here to deal with, and maybe the Legion side doesn't really want to play him. Doesn't feel like they can play him effectively. Want to get a cancer here out of the game as fast as possible. And Swiftblade and Parasite, pretty simple bans, as well as the Magnus, one of the most picked heroes in Heroes of the North right now. So I'm not a huge surprise to see him prioritized heavily by this Legion side and wanting to remove him from the pool. That does leave the Kraken, the other strength initiator, on the board, and is actually not first picked by the Legion side. They're going to go with the Ophelia into the Bubbles and Prisoner. Hellborn going to counter with Kraken, Rhapsody, and Tempest. So they're going to get the Kraken-Tempest combination, which is very, very powerful, of course, and Rhapsody on top. That means that they're looking for a lot of team fights on this Hellborn team. Gank potential is also pretty solid, but lacking a little bit of sustained damage in team fights, and as the game progresses, they're not going to be too heavy on the right clicks so far, and presumably they'll be looking to remedy that situation in the last couple of selections. Legion side, actually similar story, right? Quite strong in the team fights overall. There was busting from Ophelia as well as the Kelpfield and Prisoner Ultimate, providing some nice energy there actually. So Kelpfield says you run away from this, you get stunned. Prisoner Ultimate says you stay here, you get stunned. So seems like either way, people are going to have an issue staying un-CC'd when they're going up against this combo Prisoner and Bubbles, and both strong laners as well. Also going to be able to lock down Kraken a little bit and stop the Tempest Hole with the Prisoner Ultimate. So I'm really liking that Prisoner pick actually. And Bubbles for similar reasons. Kelpfield obviously can stop the channeling ultimates of both Tempest and Rhapsody, assuming that Tempest is going to shrunk ahead, which he probably will at some point, but Rhapsody, that Kelpfield will be persistently annoying for her when she's trying to stop damage from coming in and hurting her team. Thanks guys for picking Rhapsody. Alright. So we'll see what they do have to play on the Legion side. There are a number of support options left on the board. Glacius, Torturer, Empath, Engineer, Chief among them. Pyromancer is seeing a little more love recently, and definitely deservedly so. Witchslayer, I think, an interesting option. Polywog Priest could also be a possibility. Nymphora as well. So there's plenty of support options, just not too many that we actually see consistently. But second stage bans for Legion side, they are Silhouette, Flux, and Clanks. So focusing mostly on those short lane carry type heroes, as well as the Initiator in Flux, TDL Dark Lady and TDL Doctor Repulsor and Soulstone being taken out by the guys on Mewtwo. So they are similarly interested in shutting down the carry options for this Legion side, and that's not going to stop them from picking up the Oogie on the Legion team, and that's likely going to be their carry option. Hellborn's going to go with Madman, which I really hope is their suicide option. Right now they could certainly do a Kraken mid, Madman Suicide, and Rhapsody short laner combination with Tempest in the Woods, and I'd really prefer to see that, so hopefully we'll be looking at a hard carry option for the Hellborn team, and no surprise Legion side looking to pick up a support hero, but it is a bit of a surprise to actually pick up the Blitz, which is not something that's really on my radar, but could be interesting. Can offer a solid stun and actually a fair bit of damage output. A very good harass type hero The Pilfering is extremely annoying against many heroes, but I think stock will just disjoint it. So whether or not that's actually a particularly good zoning support against something like a Madman, I kind of doubt. In this situation, I actually would have much preferred either the Empath, which will combo very well with the Oogie, especially as the game goes later, and can use the wall and then Dust to screw with Madman's ability to get away, or something with a stun. Obviously, Witch Slayer would be very helpful with his multitude of CC tools, but especially against something like a Madman. And Pyromancer, similar story, lots of burst damage there as well. Glacius and Torture could both be interesting. Torture, obviously, one of the best zoning supports in the game, so interesting Blitz pick. I'm not really sure I'm a huge fan of it, but it will provide some utility for this team. Obviously going to help Oogie get in and out of situations and assist the team in general in their ability to move in these team fights, as well as lock people down. Nice ready up there, actually. Apparently Link not on the same page, but the other 4 heroes of Don't Care, pretty solid synchronized ready up. And it doesn't look like Mewtwo or really there either, but King Nicky and Dutch own it. I don't know if I've seen them on other teams before. I feel like I have. I've definitely seen King Nicky on other teams. I'm pretty sure I've seen Dutch owners on other teams as well. But those are the only 2 members of the Mewtwo team I recognize. Although I did not mention the fact that they picked up a Shadow Blade as their last selection. So, good stuff. Shadow Blade, a hero I actually like a fair bit. Melee carries in general have some problems, and especially one like Shadow Blade that doesn't really get the cleave build, so he could have some armor or some farm issues potentially. But Dawnbringer is such a good item for him. It gives him the stats that he wants in multiple areas, and it'll also provide him some mana regen and some farming ability, so wouldn't be surprised to see that picked up on this Shadow Blade. And with that item, he actually does become a pretty solid farmer, so not particularly concerned about his ability to transition in this game. And of course, just basically a hero that becomes impossible to kill or do anything about if the game goes sufficiently late. He can just buff himself so much, mostly with the strength. We've seen the Agi build occasionally, but actually substantially prefer the strength build because it just makes you so damn tanky. You get like 4,500 health pretty damn easily. And against a hero like Oogie, it might be necessary to do that because Oogie, the king of band fighting, as if you just try to solo straight up 1v1 him, he will destroy you. And Shadow Blade, perhaps one of the very few heroes that can actually take him and do whatever he wants when he's going up against an Oogie in a 1v1 engagement, and where neither of them wish to back off. But lanes in general, pretty solid and predictable from both sides. Going to be seeing a Suicide Madman here from the Hellborn side, as well as a mid Kraken Jungle Tempest, and Rhapsody likely going to be babysitting the Shadow Blade in the top lane. Each side going to be running these Suicide Bubbles, and the mid Prisoner. Not a huge surprise there either. Blitz and Oogie going to occupy the bottom lane down here, as well as the Ophelia in the woods. So both sides, solid drafts actually, and a good thing about the Shadow Blade pick actually is he's mostly a damage-oriented hero, not too much in terms of the CC tools, but you look at the rest of the Hellborn team, and Rhapsody, Kraken, and Tempest will provide that lockdown for him and Madman, who also doesn't have a lot of CC tools. So high damage output from 2 of the 5 Hellborn heroes, and heavy CC from the other 3. So nice synergy there. The other concern, of course, with that is if you manage to pick somebody off early on in a team fight, especially the Shadow Blade or the Madman, I would say, it's going to be difficult for the Hellborn side to do much of anything, because obviously that's their damage, and if you kill their damage, then they're really not going to do much. So we'll see what the Legion side strategy is. They do have a lot of jump potential and capacity to kill those heroes, especially the Madman. I think the Bubble Silence can be really, really difficult for him to deal with as the game goes on. He's already going to be harassed out a little bit by this Blitz. No huge surprise. Pilfering going to go through and will eat a whole bunch of auto attacks. Madman, of course, has that shield and plenty of pooled regen. No Tango or no Hatchet, so not really looking to pick up CS. No huge surprise there by any means, but should be able to do some stuff in this bottom lane. We'll eat a tree and head out to the wave once again. He's also not going to maintain lane control here either. We'll use the stock to pick up a kill and run away. He's going to put some damage now into the Blitz, who's actually going to pop the Pilfering, and this is going to be a little bit iffy, I think, for Madman at this point, because he doesn't can't disjoint that with a stock. And now it's going to continue to try to harass this Blitz out, and this is where Blitz actually becomes a problem, is because Blitz is not the greatest zoning support, and you can see it right there. Blitz taking half of his mana and about a third of his health, and we've seen Madman use, like, what, 1 tree? Actually, no, 3 trees now, so he's used a fair bit of that, but he still has a pooled, he has a mana pot, which he's using now, and has a pooled health potion, so Blitz could have some issues. Actually, his mana pot can be taken off. Somehow he got fish in there. But Blitz not going to be able to do that too much anymore. He does not have enough mana for Pilfering, and Madman at this point could potentially continue to harass out the blitz and make his lane a little bit more difficult, but that is not the only lane of the game. Middle lane, we're going to be looking at Prisoner versus Kraken, a matchup that I would assume Kraken would win thanks to his splash auto attack, and the Shackle, annoying for Kraken, really not game-breaking by any means. It's not like it's a Magmus where it prevents all that much. A lot of the time, actually, we see Kraken get the charge off without or before the Shackle even comes out, so I wouldn't be surprised if Kraken does extremely well in this lane. And already you can see 300 GPM for him and just 190 for this Prisoner 945. So late game, we'll see how it progresses. Both of them obviously solid gankers, so as they transition and move around the map a little bit more, things could get better for either one of them depending on which one rotates better. But at the current stage, King Neke looking really good in terms of farm, and Prisoner gonna have to step it up a little bit. Top lane, Solo Volca on the bubbles, getting destroyed more or less. Really currently out of health and mana as the Shadow Blade is having a decent time. 267, now 280 GPM. It's not the greatest, but Rhapsody definitely being able to harass at the bubbles very efficiently. The pull here, it looks like it is warded. I do think that blocks it. It's not just a worse site, so the stack should not be successful. And Bubble's going to go grab the rune, actually. It looked like probably just a refreshment rune. So yeah, see the stack. Oh, it's successful, as the pull was blocked. And Mana Potion will be cancelled here as well. Bubble's not going to be able to find too much in this lane. He's going to get some lane control here, so he'll get some experience, but he's still level 1. And he definitely wants to be doing a lot better than this, 110 GPM. And no real reason why this would continue to improve at any point. We've heard it said a couple of times, Bubble's just not the greatest 1v2 laner. He doesn't have too much capacity to fight up against a hero like Rhapsody and prevent Rhapsody from being able to do too much to harass him out of lane. He just can't use the Shell Surf aggressively to be able to focus him and hurt him, because then all of a sudden, if he needs that, he's screwed. And that's the only disadvantage really with having one of your main harassment tools also be your escape mechanism. It's can create some problems like that. But with lane control and with Rhapsody off in the woods looking to stack a little bit, but realizing that didn't stack and then pulling into a single stack, it's not going to do all that much for the Hellborn side. Solo Vocal should be able to get some levels as well as some gold, so you can see him up at 150 GPM now and already level 3. And Rhapsody going to find it much more difficult to harass this Bubbles out now that he is level 3, has a level 2 Shell Surf and a level 1 Song of the Sea. Rhapsody currently level 2. Actually, nicely done here, pulling a wave into the far left hard camp. This isn't the easiest maneuver to execute. And, well, Bubbles taking the CS. Not bad. Not going to hit that creep, but Staccatos will go through from Rhapsody. This isn't really a fight that Rhapsody wants to take, so she will realize that pretty quickly and back off. Shadow Blade trying to come in for a little bit of assistance, but really he needs to be focused on CS because he's only at 285 GPM, so he's actually missing some last hits for no real reason, I would imagine. I don't think that he should be too difficult, especially considering how well Rhapsody was boxing out that Shadow Blade. I don't know why that was happening. Anyway, Bubble's going to go through, and one more auto attack on this Rhapsody, that's going to be a kill. Yeah, and that's the big problem with that. Anyway, middle lane, they will pull the Tempest back in with the Prisoner ultimate, but that's not going to be enough for the kill, actually, on either side. And Zephyr will have to head back to base, 245 GPM on him, and that's not going to be the greatest thing, as Neke is currently at 322. So, Bloodlust going the way of the Legion team, but the overall golden experience is actually slightly in favor of the Hellborn side. So, well done, especially to that middle lane. And actually, Solo Voca going to pick off all sorts of stuff here. So he manages to get the Tempest coming back as he's trying to survive, and he kills the Courier, which was, for some reason was not upgraded. 5.5 minutes into this game, you cannot have a walking Courier. And you see why right there, so clearly nobody paying attention to it. Bolstering Armband can be lying on the ground, and King Neke and the Kraken's got to go back and pick that up. And that also means that the Rhapsody, who was Bloodlusted, is going to have to buy a new Courier, or somebody's got to buy a new Courier. Rhapsody doesn't even have close to as much gold as she needs for it. So this is all of a sudden actually a really bad thing. Solo Vocal on this Bubbles, having a massive impact. Actually also going to stack the Ancients here. Realizing, you know, not getting that much in the top lane as a result of the lane being pushed back. I'm going to rotate mid, do what I can, and that's pretty much exactly what you want to do. It's a sign of a really good Bubbles player. Anyway, in middle lane, looks like Madman going to come in and try to do some damage to the Prisoner. I don't think that's going to be a kill. The hook not going to connect. That might have hit a kill on Kraken, or might have just killed the Prisoner. Either way, nobody's going to die. And Madman figuring I'm not getting too much in the bottom lane. He's level 5. He's got a bottle, so he's going to do fine on levels, but the overall gold situation for him is pretty sad. 122 GPM, and look at the GPM charts in general. He's just barely above the supports. And after Solo Voca did all that work in the top lane and the middle lane, He's actually right up with Ophelia, who we haven't talked about too much, but Ophelia currently at 230 GPM, and that's not really where you want to be, but it's not atypical for Ophelias anymore. She just doesn't farm as fast as she used to, and without getting consistent ganks, it's difficult for her to get up to the 300 GPM range. It looks like she's going to set up something in the middle lane. As they've sort of transitioned this, Madman is in here. I don't know if that's just, while Kraken went back and healed, I guess. And now Kraken's going to retake this middle lane, which is something that they need to have happen. They need early PK on this Kraken because Bubbles is going to provide a lot of initiation presence, and the Hellborn needs something like that in order to counter it. And really, I don't want to be starting fights with the Tempest, I want to be starting fights with the Kraken. So the faster Kraken gets his PK, the better things are going to go for the Hellborn side. But speaking of the jungglers, the other one is the Tempest, who's at 245 GPM right now. Just kind of bad, actually, top lane. Bubbles will barely survive. 245 GPM for Tempest is quite poor, actually, especially at 7.5 minutes in. He should be much closer to the 300 GPM mark. Tempest a hero that was not hurt nearly as badly by the jungle nerfs, or the jungle changes, I should say. So, not the sort of performance that I think he should be happy with, or that he should expect. This is, especially considering his jungle was completely uncontested. Bubbles never came over to try to kill him. None of his camps were warded. There was no reason why he should be this far behind. He does have a Ring of Sorcery now along with his boots, and that's going to help a lot. Release the Kraken actually going to be used here. Going to try to stop some people. Bubbles and Blitz trying to control the rune, and it looks like Bubbles has picked up the haste. Tempest here is going to take the kill field along with Kraken. Kraken's going to charge out and eat the stun. Tempest's going to wait for it to wear off, and he will be just fine. Haste and Bubbles still kind of hanging around, looking to do something perhaps, and the Square side obviously providing plenty of vision, but nobody going to take a death, and they will just head on back to their respective lanes. So some relatively static lanes here in general, as Madman, the only one really to rotate too much, as well as the Bubbles. So both suicides trying to move out, realizing they're not getting good farm, and turn that into something more positive. Bubbles getting a little bit more out of it than Madman did, but nice idea, I think, on both sides. That's a mentality you want to have. I'm not getting what I need to get in my lane. There's no point in just sitting there and being completely unproductive. I can do other stuff. Anyway, looks like Oogie is in fact the top farmer of the game at 370 GPM, which is especially impressive because Blitz has not exactly been here this entire time. Ophelia is really not ganked, to my knowledge. And we'll take the Skeleton King here, as well as the Minotaur Stomp. This is not going to be a kill on Madman. He's got the Rev Ward down, but he can go the other way. Even the Dust not going to get the stock. It's just too much movement speed, and he can more or less do what he wants. He is still dusted. He's going to put the stock as well as the bow roll onto the Ophelia, but obviously not enough damage, and now he's out of mana. A little bit too risky to stay in this fight, so we'll back off, head back to base, fill up his bottle, and fill up his health and mana bars. And perhaps try to lead some more experience down here in this bottom lane. He's level 6, so Madman doing okay on the levels, but you'd really like to see a little bit more in terms of the farm. Anyway, in the middle lane, the ultimate from Prisoner going to be able to lock down the Kraken. I don't think he's getting out of this one. He will charge the Prisoner 4, but actually the last up attack from Blitz is the thing that gets the kill. And another kill going the way of Don't Care. So 3-0 advantage at this point. Bubbles actually here in this middle lane for reasons. I guess he was going to help set up that kill, but the Ward decided obviously probably helping that spot that rotation out. It still didn't matter, Kraken dead, but a nice idea. As Bubbles currently has a Kelp field available, so I'd like to see him try to set something up, perhaps on the Madman, perhaps on the Kraken once again. As I said before, they really want to keep him down and prevent him from getting his portal key, because that is their main source of initiation, really their only source of initiation. You look at the Legion side, and they have both Bubbles and Prisoner that can start fights. Potentially even Ophelia, if she gets the right positioning and her creeps are appropriate. And you look at the Hellborn side, and really the person that's going to be starting team fights for them is the Kraken. So without a portal key, they're going to have some pretty serious issues starting and taking team fights, just because Tempest does not want to jump in first. That's not really how that hero works. Shadowblade, obviously the carry, doesn't want to be in the first in the fight either. Perhaps he needs to be far in the back, and Madman sort of wants to be in the periphery, hanging around, jumping back and forth, in and out of the fights, not the guy that's in and then is going to be like, come at me, everybody. Come fight me. That's much more Kraken's wheelhouse, so. Well done to the Hellborn side, to the Legion side in some sense. Stopping that Kraken a little bit. He is currently at 250 GPM, which is substantially below where he was earlier, and actually Prisoner has overtaken him. Prisoner 285, so that's more or less exactly what they want to do. Kraken it off to a good start. Let's try to slow it down a little bit and prevent him from being able to hurt us. Now, they have transitioned Kraken to the suicide role here as Madman moves to the mid, and I really don't like this, actually. The stock is not going to be doing too much up against the Shackle from Prisoner. And for that matter, Madman can't do anything in this middle lane because he's got only 160 GPM and actually top. They're going to get a kill on solo Volca, so I missed that. It's like the Staccatos there, and yeah, Shell Surf unable to get the port off, and it will be a kill. So first one going the way of the Hellborn team. That's good. Get themselves on the board. Stop the potential onslaught or owning streak or whatever from the guys on Don't Care. But anyway, doesn't make a lot of sense because Madman, like, what's he going to do in this middle lane? He's going to let Prisoner get free for him because he cannot stand up to him. Meanwhile, bottom lane, Kraken's just going to decrease his GPM because all of a sudden he's up against a really, really farmed Oogie, as well as some help from Blitz and Ophelia. So this is just decreasing the farm of two heroes. Nobody is actually doing anything as a result of that rotation. And Legion side continuing to try to push this bottom tower. Ophelia is currently at level 7, so she obviously has 3 creeps available. Minotaur Stomp not going to connect there. And Torrent. We'll see if they just take these. You guys not hosting you for 120 viewers. Anyway, pretty big team fight gonna be starting right here, and Madman be the first one to fall as the 2-man Tempest Hole gonna lock some people down. Oogie is actually still taking a lot of damage, and he will eventually die. So it's 1-for-1 in favor. But now Prisoner gonna drop the hook onto 2. We'll see if he pops the ult. There it is. There's Tempest Death. They finally kill Blitz on the support, and I think Shadowblade is gonna be just fine as he is way too tanky to do anything about. Ophelia realizing that Prisoner can just do whatever he wants if he gets the port back, and that's exactly what will happen. So, not bad. And off to the side, actually, it looks like Bubbles is going to be the one that jumps, and he gets pretty easily destroyed. A Gargantuan Blast from Mr. Shadowblade, pretty important, and that will end up getting the kill. Apparently everybody's trying to contact me at the same time, so I was logged into Vent. So, might have heard my friend. Either way, really, really great engagement there from the Hellborn side. They actually pick off a number of heroes, and it's going to put them right back into this game. And more importantly, this Kraken is getting closer to his portal key, so this Winged Courier is just going to sit there, I guess. Seriously? Alright. That was curious. I'm going to have to stalk away from the Oogie who picks up the illusion rune in the bottom lane. And there goes a Shackle onto him. He's going to actually need to land the hook as well. He's going to pull in 2, in fact. Madman going to be in a lot of trouble. He will be locked down and killed, and they managed to kill the Rhapsody as well, who was in the wrong place at the wrong time, getting hit by that hook. And that's going to result in a mid-tier 1 tower kill, no question. As the entire Legion side has grouped up and decided to push this. Wouldn't be surprised if they go for a second tower, in fact. They realize there is no Tempest Hole, obviously no portal key on Kraken for several minutes at the very least. And no way for the Hellborn side to stop this with just a 3 versus 5, considering the Legion side have used none of their significant ultimates, except for the Blitz, I guess, but that's really fine. So, yeah, tier 2 tower going down here in favor of Don't Care, and that really good team fight that Mewtwo took earlier, completely negated by getting a couple of pickoffs and 2 towers in the middle lane. And now Legion side going to go on a hunt through the Hellborn jungle. I'm not going to find anybody as a Tempest element, they'll spot them out, just getting a couple of kills off of those. And those are valuable. That's not something to be completely discounted. That's a fair bit of gold for, it's like 100 for killing all 3 of them. And that's obviously 200 for killing 6. So, you Tempest players out there, please make sure that you maintain your elementals, because you can lose a lot of gold if you don't micro them appropriately. Looks like Legion side have some sort of vendetta against towers, and they've decided this is a good opportunity to just start to kill all of them. Top lane will be the option, and Ophelia creeps taking a fair bit of damage here. Astrolabe used to build them up. So that's the other thing I like, actually. Ophelia, I believe, just got her Astrolabe, so this is the exact right time to push, obviously. Heal is not going to be any more powerful than it is right now. It's never going to be more powerful than it is right now. And getting a whole bunch of towers and tower gold and the map controller goals with it as a result of that Astrolabe is very, very valuable. So I'm liking Don't Care's plan, and they should probably abandon that plan relatively soon. I'm not sure if they can take tier 3 or tier 2 towers with the entire Hellborn side up and all of their cooldowns available. And I think they realize that, so they're going to maybe take some farm away in the jungle, and then head back to their side of the map, look for some pickoffs, and more importantly, get continued farm on this Oogie, who is currently at 430 GPM, highest farm in the game. Shadowblade has managed to pick his farm up a little bit, 380 gold per minute, but still actually behind Prisoner as well, who's at 400 GPM, so pretty good game here from Zifranthe, who's 1-0 and 3, and especially considering how poorly he started, it's a very, very nice recovery. And going to be solid impact in these team fights, and as I said before, I do have two initiator options, one of them being Prisoner, the other one being Bubbles, and actually there's the portal key on Kraken, going to be able to jump the Ophelia, hook from Prisoner, not going to be enough, release Kraken right on contact side as hell, and there's the ultimate, and Tempest Hole getting back on to everybody, that's 2 dead right off the bat. Prisoner not going to turn this around with his ultimate, that's going to be a kill onto the Tempest, but his ult's down, so who cares, they still managed to kill the Madman though, and I don't think the rest of the Hellborn side is really upset about this, or happy about this. Kraken gonna go down, now Shadowblade all of a sudden in a lot of trouble, this Prisoner is just completely, or sorry, that's Oogie is man fighting, they did kill Prisoner, what am I even talking about, and it looks like both supports and both carries will be the only ones to get out of that fight, so a really, really good initiation from the Hellborn side, and it looks great, that Tempest Hole onto 3 heroes. Rapsy ultimate actually didn't do that much because it was used in conjunction with the Tempest Hole, so there wasn't really too much damage that was coming out when that was going out, but still, Dizzy with a very, very excellent Tempest Hole placement. They just did not have enough damage to finish everybody off and give them a decisive win in the team fight, so the trade probably still favoring the Hellborn side a little bit, as trades generally are better if you're down, but more or less even in terms of the heroes that were actually exchanged. And that does mean that Kraken has his portal key, as we saw in that team fight, so he's revealed that to the other team, and that's going to be extremely important once again for their initiation potential. So at this point, probably should go Kraken jump, followed by Tempest jump, followed by rest of team jump, with Madman pretty much doing whatever he wants. He doesn't necessarily have to follow up the other heroes. He can jump in and out of the fights depending on how successful and safe he can be while doing that. Wow. Bubbles got extremely close to dying there. Considering that was pretty much just the staccatos in terms of CC options, that Gargantuan blasted a lot of damage. And it looks like Shadowblade actually, yeah, is the... No, he's in plus 19 agility, in fact, so he's going the agility build, which is not my preferred method, but I'm not exactly a Shadowblade player, so it's fine. Anyway, Rap's going to be caught out by Ophelia and Prisoner. That's going to be a pretty easy kill. Going to try to get himself killed to Conqueror. That's not going to be successful. Veiled Rot being used by Blitz. Actually, it's going to be spotted by the Kraken, though. That's where Revelation goes through there, figuring Madman's around. He is over here, in fact, gets dusted out, trying to TP away. Will they have enough things to stop it? Yes, they will. Prisoner Hook's going to help that, and that's going to be a pretty easy death. So, with the pickoff, that's going to be turning into a tier 2 tower kill in the bottom lane, as the entire Legion side is there. And once again, this is exactly what I like to see from teams. You get a pick, you get something out of it. Madman's dead. The Hellborn team does not want to fight. They don't have a Tempest Hole. You can get a tier 2 tower. If you can swing all the way top, which is pretty unlikely, you may be able, even be able to get a second tier 2 tower. Get some wards up. Get Kongor protected. Maybe take Kongor. I don't know. Just saying. I agree, Stu. For those of you who are unaware, Twitch chat, Stu, aka Art of Fa, who's a common caster, saying the whole point of getting a Staff of the Master on Shadowblade, which is actually something I hadn't even noticed, is to get the cleave on the strength build. And for agi builds, you should go Dawnbringer. I'm thinking that you should just go Dawnbringer in general. Actually, I missed a kill on top. Solo Volk on the Bubble's going to die to the portal key initiation from Kraken, so nice pick from Kraken. And good to keep that Bubbles down, still unable to pick up his portal key. 530 gold, so he should actually have it at this point. He's got 200 GPM, and 20 minutes in, I feel like he should be close to a PK. Or closer than he currently is, but maybe I'm just completely misestimating the amount of gold he should have. But yeah, I'm just generally a fan of the strength build actually over the agi build. I sort of get why people go with the agi build, but it seems unnecessarily risky. The amount of strength that you get and how tanky you can be with the strength build is just absolutely ridiculous. So, and you still do a lot of damage. It's not like you're completely unable to hit things. So, yeah. Right. But anyway, speaking of Shadowblade, I don't actually know what this does, so... Yeah, strength gains 50%, cleave, agility grants unit walking, and true strike. Intelligence grants 6% intelligence mana steal. That's interesting. Clever little stuff there, not bad. Rest of Hellborn items mostly pretty typical. Tempest going for the Astrolabe and Ring of Sorcery build, and actually you can see a pretty good dichotomy between the two teams in terms of the Astrolabe pickup and the subsequent usage. As they're going to take the top tier 2 tower, so that's actually the last outer tower that can go, and I hope not going to connect as Kraken manages to jump away. Yeah, the armor is really good, but they have an Oogie, so he doesn't care about your agility armor build. He's just going to be like, I do 1 billion magic damage. And a lot of Legion side's damage, in fact, is magical, so armor builds against a team like this I don't think are a great idea. Sure, if you've got a late game, you know, carry type thing, that's fine, but I mean, health is health. Like, if you're trying to survive something, getting tanky, getting a large HP pool is a very good way to do it. You don't necessarily need to build armor. That may be more efficient in some situations, but it's not like Shadowblade has issues getting to 4,500 health. He actually does it pretty damn easily. But it looks like he is going for the Dawnbringer now, so he's picked up the Firebrand. Likely to see the Icebrand into the Dawnbringer. Anyway, the Hellborn side in general, I was talking about the Tempest Astrolabe. So we saw him pick up the Astrolabe, and he really hasn't been able to push with it. He only had 260 GPM, but it's a bit of a late Astrolabe, and Ophelia got the Astrolabe. They immediately took 2 towers. More or less. They took a team fight. They're like, I got an Astrolabe, let's go take a team fight. They won the team fight. And they went and took a tower. They actually took 2 towers, like I said. And that's exactly what I want to see the Legion side doing. Like, that's how you're supposed to use an Astrolabe. I got a good team fight push item, let's go team fight and push. And you see Tempest with the same team fight and push items. In fact, his build is extremely similar to Ophelia's, not doing that. He's got his elementals in this middle lane. He's too scared to sit next to them and actually leech experience and stuff as well as gold, because he should be. But Rhapsody, why isn't Rhapsody pushing the Tempest? Why isn't the entire team pushing together? They have a Tempest hole, they have a Kraken hole. It's not like this team can't team fight. They have the Rhapsody ultimate. They should be able to take team fights, and yet they've got 1 tier 1 tower in nearly 25 minutes with a Tempest, a Rhapsody, and an Astrolabe. Like, that's just not enough pushing, and they haven't been trying either. It's not as simply, oh, they keep trying to push, but you know, they keep getting rebuffed by this Legion side. They really just haven't tried to push. So yeah, I'm pretty unimpressed with that in general, and we'll see. It's definitely a good item, it's just the usage of it hasn't been great. Anyway, Kraken going up the Shrunken Head, obviously fantastic against Oogie, so that's a good pickup right there. Speaking of Shrunkens, that's something that Shadowblade needs to get, and if he hadn't had staff, he would have had that by now. Pretty much. He wouldn't have it by now, but he'd be much closer. Instead, he still has to finish Dawnbringer, and then he can get staff. Anyway, Legion side Icon and a Gnome's Wisdom on the Oogie, so that's just fine. He's also going to pick up a Frostfield plate here, so that's going to stop a lot of the damage coming out from the Hellborn side, as the Shadowblade is their main source, and Shadowblade and Madman are in fact their main source of the damage. They really don't have too much magical presence on this Hellborn side, and that Frostfield plate will do a fair bit of work, of course, as well as decreasing the attack speed, providing a solid AoE nuke and stuff. Prisoner currently sitting on the Portal Key Shrunken Head combination, so not going to be too scared of the various CC tools coming out from the Hellborn side. Not really sure if I would have gotten Shrunken Head that quickly on the Prisoner. Something even like Elder Parasite and Sanitarius, giving him some more right-click physical damage presence might have been very good. And I'm just not convinced he actually needs the Shrunken all that much at this point. He really shouldn't be in a position that needs that, mostly because he needs to be able to cancel the Tempest ultimate, him and or Bubbles. So maybe they determine that Bubbles is the one that needs to be the Tempest canceller, and the Rhapsody canceller for that matter, but Bubbles actually doesn't have Portal Key yet, so that's a little bit iffy. So, no. Not the worst thing by any means, though, as Ophelia is picking up a tablet. I like that a lot. Tempest and Kraken hate facing tablets, and actually you can do some good stuff with Madman too, trying to kite him a little bit, and it will obviously stop the Rhapsody ultimate in the situation where that becomes necessary, which probably should be the case. And nobody else looking at too much. It's mostly just the items on Prisoner, Ophelia, and Oogie, though. But they're going to need an initiation here onto the Who's that? Shadowblade, actually. What am I even talking about? That's going to be a pretty easy kill. No, Rhapsody with a really nice ult in the background will be cancelled, though, and Rhapsody falls. There goes the Shadowblade. Release Kraken is there. Tempest looking for the ultimate, but it's not going to be too much. There's no follow-up to the damage as they kill them all. This is exactly the problem that I had before, is if they kill the damage dealers, nothing's going to happen. They do manage to get the one pick on the bubbles, but Tempest basically wasting his ultimate. Shadowblade coming back in with buyback, and now there's nothing he can do because the rest of his team is dead. So that was an extremely sloppy team fight, and extremely sloppy communication and execution there from the Hellborn side. There was no reason for Tempest to ult there. Once Madman and Shadowblade were dead, his ult does nothing. Kraken is not going to provide damage. Rhapsody was dead anyway, so even if she could provide damage, which she can't, she couldn't have in that situation. So I don't know what Tempest was doing. I actually came in from really, really far away, so that was very poor. And not really something you're looking for, but the great jump from the Legion side. You got to give them credit. They saw Shadowblade coming in with the word of sight in the middle lane. You can see right there, and used that opportunity to pick off the opposing team's hard carry, who only has 1900 health, which is a lot lower than the amount of health that he would have if you were going for the strength build. But let's just leave that alone for a second. And once they got that kill, it was more or less the Hellborn side can do nothing to them, because Shadowblade really at this point is the only source of damage. I mean, Madman potentially could be a source of damage, but he's got an Energizer and Steam Beats. Like, this is not, and 175 GPM. This is not a hero that's going to be outputting a whole lot in these team fights. So once they got that Shadowblade killed, the Hellborn side really should have just backed up. I understand why they tried to save him, but especially the Tempest ult was just silly. Mewtwo in a bit of a precarious position at this point. We're about 28 minutes into the game, and they're 13.5k golds, about 8k experience down. And obviously not where you want to be, but in particular, the way the gold is distributed on their team, Tempest actually has a fair bit of it, which is, I guess, kind of good considering his early game was real bad. And he's going for a major totem now. Is that a push book? Yeah, that's a push book. So he just spent 2,000 gold on an item that isn't a portal key or a Shrunken Head. Now, Shrunken Head ultimate can still be cancelled by the Prisoner ulti, but that at least forces Prisoner to sit back and counter-initiate with his ultimate. So you're going to accomplish some stuff there because Prisoner really can't initiate. Bubbles can, but Prisoner can't.
Need control.
What, push book? Really not a fan of that. Speaking of push books, Bubbles actually has one as well, and I am pretty much okay with that. They don't really need a portal key on him right now. He's not providing all that much in these team fights, but especially because Tempest is just not needing to be canceled. Rhapsody ultimate's pretty easy to cancel as well, and there is a portal key available on the Prisoner. Nothing else needs to happen. Actually, Kraken get the charge up from the Oogie. They drop the loose Kraken right in his face, and he's up the cliff. They will get the immediate kill onto the Rhapsody, and Oogie get a man up as they manage to kill the Kraken as well. Oogie's just like, come at me, bro. I've got my ultimate maximum. Nice Tempest ult immediately be canceled, though, and Tempest going to fall here as well. Now, Oogie continuing to pound on the auto attacks, and that's going to be a cleanup, so their entire Hellborn side is dead, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a CC vote coming out here momentarily from the guys on Mewtwo, because there's just no way they're coming back in this game. They're going to lose a bot Rax here. I think they're going to lose at least a mid Rax as well, and may even get Mega Creeps killed. The only person on the buyback is the Kraken, and things are just not the greatest. Yeah, I'm with Pingu on this one. Hellborn has no damage. You look at the team and you say, where's the damage? It was supposed to be Madman and Shadowblade. Shadowblade has some damage, but Madman really does not. So if they kill the Shadowblade, and even if they don't kill the Shadowblade, there just isn't any damage on the Hellborn team. And they actually got some pretty decent Kraken ultimates. They got some pretty decent Tempest holes off, but there was no damage. And that's what happens when there's no damage. So Game 1, going to be going to the guys on Don't Care, and we have to wait half a second because I don't have my between games thingy is not done yet. But anyway, well played to them. Actually, I was generally impressed with how they did that. Like I said earlier in the cast, they have lost a couple of pretty important and high-skilled members, so I was a little bit worried about their performance potentially, especially considering they are in the loser bracket relatively quickly. But it's definitely looking good against a Mewtwo team that really isn't that high tier, so definitely more lower tier gold, high tier silver type team. They've been back and forth a couple of times, so not exactly the test of fire that's what is that expression? I forget now. Anyway, not exactly the really intense test that you'd say, okay, this team is great, but this is a team that they probably should beat, and they should beat pretty easily, which is basically what happened in this game. So at the very least, they're doing what needs to be done, so not bad. And that's going to do it for Game 1. Don't Care taking it, and we'll be moving on to Game 2 in just a moment.